I turn it over to Holly, who is going to be awesome. So take it away.
Okay, so welcome everyone. I'm really excited for this session for a couple reasons. One, and I'm just going to make sure, sometimes with my Jabra device, I don't have my meeting mute synced up. Just happens every once in a while, so I'll just keep this kind of tucked right here. But I'm really excited to talk about using Message Center and Planner. This is an adoption kind of track topic, near and dear to some of the work that I do with my customers. But also, if you can imagine right now, I've been leading a lot of Teams training. And so my training session repertoire has gotten a little monotonous. So I literally woke up with a spring in my step today because I get to talk about something not specific to Teams. So we're going to be talking about the Message Center and Planner. So for those of you that don't know me or haven't met me, my name is Holly. I am the kind of owner, queen, lord of all that I survey at Big Olympia. And this is my kind of consulting company specializing in SaaS tool adoption and training. So SaaS being tools that change all the time. So Office 365 or Microsoft 365 being one of those tools, I do quite a bit of training and adoption in that space. I have worked for years in IT support, in the IT service management space, in customer success, user experience, and the Microsoft 365 experience. I'm one of the lowly few people that got their certified Microsoft adoption specialist certification, still very proud of that. And I lead organizations just like yours through change. And for the past several months, I've been doing that all remotely. So we've been a living use case, everyone, in Microsoft Teams, but that's just a little bit about who I am. And, you know, one of the things that happens and discussions that come up when I work with customers for a long period of time, this is something that happens. People get overwhelmed or caught off guard by how much change there is happening in the Microsoft 365. And show of hands, use the hand raise tool. How many of you have ever been caught off guard by a Microsoft 365 change? So maybe all of your SharePoint sites became modern pages. There's some new stuff that popped into Teams that you didn't know about till you found out about it months and months later. Anyone here ever been caught off guard by a Microsoft 365 change? Okay, looks like maybe no one has, but for those of you, if you've ever wondered, how am I supposed to know about these? Well, Microsoft has been trying to tell you they have a direct conduit to your world through the Microsoft 365 Message Center. Now, one thing before we kind of get into our agenda, I want to make sure everyone here understands what the Message Center is. Okay, so if you are new to Microsoft 365, if you are not an admin in Office 365 or Microsoft 365, the Message Center is a place where Microsoft sends announcements to you relevant to your environment about new or changing features, plan maintenance, important announcements, critical information that are going to, things that are going to affect you. So Microsoft is sending you notes saying, warning, this is going to happen. Here's some things that are going to change. And that's all happening through the Message Center. Now, if you're thinking, I don't know what that is, but I want to get access to it, we're going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about the Message Center and then a problem that often develops with the Microsoft 365 Message Center. We're going to get into a little bit on how do we break the inertia? How do we start democratizing that information and making it available to more and more people? We're going to take kind of a little sidestep and talk about having a Microsoft 365 steering committee, a group of people that plan and work on Microsoft 365. And we're going to talk about taking actions with some of the tasks that we're gonna set up. We will do a recap. I would love to answer any and all questions that you have today. So I'll make sure and try and leave us a little slush time. But occasionally when I'm talking about something that I'm excited about, I'm just a little top that gets wound up and I can kind of go on and on. So I'll be kind of watching my time here. But the main thing is we're gonna define this problem and come up with some breakthrough ways to make sure that everyone in your organization knows what's happening and what actions you need to take. So the first thing we need to do is define what the problem is with the message center. You know, I just told you what it is. It doesn't sound that bad. It sounds actually pretty good. But we need to actually look at this problem and see, how is the message center set up? What are the resulting issues that happen because of the way the message center is set up, and what we can do to change them. So in order to do that, of course, I want to get into my Contoso Electronics environment. So my demo environment, I want you to meet Megan. So Megan Bowen, the hardest working gal out there, she is our global admin, and that's who we're going to be in our demo. We're going to go and take a peek into Megan's world. Okay, so if you are one of the global admins in your Microsoft 365 tenant, maybe you can relate. Megan is busy. She's got a lot of stuff to worry about. In fact, she just learned about a bunch of stuff here today that she wants to put into action, and she is but one person. And it just so happens that Megan is the only person who has access to the Microsoft 365 Message Center. So let's go ahead and take a peek into, like I said, into Megan's world. And here is Megan's office portal. Now, Megan's got a lot going on, but like I said, she is the global administrator. So she has the administrative or the admin app in her portal. So I just want to point out that if any of you are trying to follow along and you are not an admin, you're going to see some screens here that you might not have access to, but Megan is a global admin. So she's signing into her admin portal, and here is my admin center. And I'm just going to go to my home page here, and you'll see here now, of course, Megan still maybe has a little work to do in setting up this environment, but here is on the home page of the admin portal, the message center. Now, I have arranged and made this so it's right front and center when I sign in and look at the admin portal. But for some of you, if you scroll down on this page, it may be way, way, way down on the bottom. Or you might not even have that card turned on. So if I click on the cards here, I'm going to close out of my demo tenant tab there. So if I click on the cards here to add to my home page, you may have to scroll through and drag one of these cards on in order to have access to it. So I'm gonna, hopefully I haven't totally screwed up my environment here. Let me close out of this card adder and pull my message center back up there. But I have the message center here. Now remember, Megan is the only person in my company that can see the message center. So let's actually take a quick look at the message center. Now, some of these announcements, if you've never ever looked at the message center, and of course, as a trainer, I want to assume that there are some folks on the call that maybe have never seen this, but some of these things are important messages that tell me about changes that might take place. Now, some of these, hey, some of our Azure, our SSL certificate stuff is going to change. Now, I'm a global admin. I may be a little bit more technical. Boom, I zero in on that. That I know that affects me. I might click on some of those things and read them and plan on my own or work with others to manage some of these changes. However, some of these things like Teams custom meeting images, let's just take a look at that. All right, so here we can actually see, we could add a custom logo image for all tenant meetings. Cool. Okay, there is some licensing components to it, but you know what? I don't I maybe as a global admin, like I understand this, but I don't know what to do with this. I don't know if this is important to us. So one, I might just not even really do any, I might not take any action with the message center. So the message center has all sorts of really tons of goodies. And oftentimes they have act by dates. They have times where you can understand here, if there's something that you need to do by a certain date, you can learn a lot about it. But the message center, like I said, not that many people have access to it. One other thing I want to talk about really quickly with the message center, just a quick hint. This should be on by default, but if you click on the message center preferences, there is a regular email that you can get, so an email digest. So if you are someone who has a GA account, but you actually have, and rightfully so, you have a GA account and a separate user account, and you don't really do a lot in your GA environment unless you're making changes, you can actually get this digest email and send it to your regular user account. So there are a couple things here that add some extension to it. But again, a lot of the times what we're dealing with is Megan is the, and in many environments that I've been, we only have one person or a couple people with message center access. So the main problem that I come across is people get caught off guard by changes. They want to know what's happening, and only their admins have access to the message center. And in fact, if you're not a super, with it as an admin, or you're a new admin to Microsoft 365, this might be far off your radar. So, and again, I've worked with groups where, it's a smaller tenant, there's just one GA, and they're more technical resource, and that stuff sort of begins and ends with them. A little bit of a flavor of the problem. Okay, so our GA, like Megan, she catches the big stuff. Okay, like I showed you. What about the other stuff that just requires maybe a knowledge base update or a training update? Some of this news permeates. I'm seeing and hearing some of it, but there might be other things that have impact in my organization that I might not know about. So that's a little bit of a flavor of the problem. And the last one, which I call the eternal problem, is whose job is it to do anything with this data? I'm seeing all of this stuff, okay, but what do I do with it? What do I do once I finish reading that message? You could share it with someone. You could pass the baton a couple more times, but it's kind of like, okay, we know we're enlightened, but how do we tell people? How do we pass that information along? So in order to break the inertia that often results here is, okay, we see the data, we know it's there. What do we do with it? We want to make a plan, and it's plan with a capital P, because we're going to make a plan in Planner. So in Planner, spoiler alert, the message center has an out-of-box connection with Planner. So now in your tenant, you can start shoveling all of those messages that you get in Message Center into a plan in Planner. Hooray! It's so easy to set up. In fact, that's why I'm thinking we'll probably have some slush at the end, because this just isn't a really heavy lifting action to take. So this is in my continuum of how easy something is. This is like crockpot simple. You just you turn it on and things start happening. But I want everyone to take a time out. This is not the beginning and end of this problem. Just because you start shoveling this stuff out of the message center into Planner, we're just creating the same environment in a different place. So as I said when I was watching Pat's presentation, he said, if you build it, they will come. That is not true, okay? If you set this up, if you turn this on today, this is not going to solve your problem. In fact, it's like the Spider-Man pointing meme, okay? We've just set up the same thing. It's the same, it's the message center in a planner, and we still have the same problem. So we need to figure out who's going to see it, what are we going to do with the tasks? So the first thing we need is a team of people. And I want to stick a pin in this a little bit because we're going to circle back and talk about this, but this is probably one of the more critical pieces of this. And honestly, in all of my years of leading adoption efforts on Microsoft 365, this is where they fail. All right. If we do not have a formal group of people in place whose official, or partially official part of their role is to start managing this environment in a holistic way, and you think you're going to survive Microsoft 365 adoption, and I'm sorry, I'm going to be candid here because this isn't a training class. This is Holly Petersen talking at, at a conference, okay? If you think you are going to roll out Microsoft 365 with the same Exchange admin and the same SharePoint admin that you had for years before, and you don't need any other help beyond that, you are wrong. You're wrong. You need people. This is just a whole new animal, and you got to have people. So again, we're going to stick a pin in that passionate conversation. We're going to save that for later. But we do need a workplace for this group of people. And another thing I learned from Pat's presentation, guess what? There's a team template out there. Now, I'm not going to demo that live. I want to do it the way I set up my demo. I don't think I sacrificed enough to the demo gods this week to have that go well, but apparently there's maybe even a team template out there that you could use for this purpose. But we want to, now that we have our team of people, we need to create a team in Teams. So we need to make a place that we can work together. Before I go in and set up this team, I want everyone to understand, I recognize that some of you might not be using Teams, capital T Teams, or those collaborative groups in Teams yet. I cannot tell you how many organizations have done a kind of a good stair step of rolling out Teams, but they're really just in Teams for chat and meetings, and they haven't yet broached the whole groups situation. I get it, but you can still use Planner, so I'll show you that as well. Or, now this is something I'm not going to really show off unless, maybe in the questions towards the end. Again, if you're really not there yet, you haven't rolled out these tools, you don't have the ability to create Office 365 groups, you can assign people the Message Center reader role. So as long as you have a team of people and you have more eyes on the Message Center, that's really the goal. Of course, today I'm going to show you how to set this up in Planner. That's kind of, but I want to recognize that, there are some people, I work with organizations all the time. They're just not there yet. So let's actually set up our workspace. Now we're going to set up our team, and then we're going to talk about making a plan in Planner. So in the environment, in my Teams environment, so I'm Megan. All right, I'm going to go over to my Teams window. Now I have a team already set up. This is my Microsoft 365 steering committee team. Now, if you want to set up I don't know exactly what that team template looks like, but feel free, set up what you need to do, make your team so you can create a team from scratch. And, you can, it looks like, look at that. See here, you can create your champion community, whatever that is. You can do that. Actually, okay, I'm gonna do the unthinkable. I'm gonna do this live. I see a shiny button here. I can't help it, but click on it. Of course, it's gonna see. All right, so, oh my gosh, it gives you so much. Oh, I love this thing. All right, I love this already. I'm gonna make this a part of my demo. So this is gonna be a private team at first. Okay, so we're gonna start with our champions team. Later on, I could come and make a more public version of this team later on and give it a different name. But for now, I'm going to make it private. So I'm going to call this the M365 Champs Corner. And I'll create this. It's going to have me add members. Again, sorry to add this on. Like I said, I saw a shiny button and I had to click it. And this is a demo environment. So hopefully this won't, I'll close this for now. And we'll use my other steering committee team. So just remember, you set up your team, you can add in some channels. Now I added my channel called Change Management. I think compared to my my new team, my champs corner, that might be a little bit different. Oh, it looks like maybe I was supposed to select the channels that I wanted to create. Dang. But I have my change management channel, and I've added my people that are going to be a part of my team. Remember, I want to go outside of IT. I'm going to include HR, training and development, communications, marketing, maybe those power users. So if you like Pat's idea, which I love, like going out and finding the people that are just going a million miles an hour in your M365 environment, go grab those people and ask them if they want to be a part of this conversation, a part of this team. And we're going to go in and we're going to add a planner tab. So I'm going to show you how to set this up in Teams. And then otherwise, if you're not yet using the Teams workspaces, which again, some people aren't, I'll show you how to do this directly in Planner. But I'm going to add a planner tab, and I'm going to give my new plan a name. So I'm going to create a new plan. This is going to be ultimately the one we use in our demo, but I'll show you how to set up a different one in plan. And I'm going to call this Message Center Tasks. All right, so we're just going to call this Message Center Tasks. I'm going to save it. I posted to my team about this so that they know that this exists now. So if I go back to my posts area, we'll see that Megan created this. Now I have my Message Center Tasks plan. We're going to be working directly in Teams today so that you are aware. But in Planner, so I already have Planner open here. Again, you can get there from your Home tab. You can search for Planner, or you can click on the apps, the app launcher, and search in all apps for Planner. But if you're not using Teams, you can, as long as you can create a group or someone can create a group for you, you can make a new plan. You can add this to an existing Microsoft 365 group. You can make a private plan. But again, the goal is we want to have a plan in Planner in order to do the magic with the Message Center and Planner. So ultimately we have to have a planner or a plan. So in this one, I'll just call this my test plan just to kind of make it, and I'll create it, and it'll ask me who should be a part of this plan, and I can add members up here to my plan. But as you can see, it kind of starts me in the same spot as it does in Teams. And of course, if you want to, you can, my apologies, you can go to looking at this plan, not in the Teams window, just by clicking the little globe up here. So if you don't like working on your planner directly in Teams, especially to build it out, you can go directly to the planner or your plan in the planner site, or another handy thing, you can make your plan fill the full screen. So using that kind of pinch and pull arrows. So we're going to leave ours in full screen before we do any more building. But just remember, you want your team, you want a team in Teams, and you want to make a plan. Whether you make that plan in Teams or directly in Planner, it's up to you. The next thing we want to do is we want to set our plan up. Now, I know, like I said, it's so easy to connect the two. You know, all you need is a plan defined, and some people, their first inclination might be, I'm just going to jump back over to the Message Center and just start, again, shoveling the information in. We want to think about, what is it going to look like for us to go through these things? What is our review process going to look like? And that may help what our buckets are going to look like. And then how can we use tags to our advantage? So in our planner, so I'm going to go to our planner in Teams. The first bucket by default that we get is called to do, and we can add other custom buckets. And all of those Message Center messages are going to come in to a single bucket. That's what you get to define. So I might want to call this, new messages. Okay, so that's going to be our bucket where all the new stuff comes in. And then as we're clicking on these tasks, as we're working with them, how will we want to move them around? What other dimension would we want to give them? So one of them, and again, we can assign tasks to people. So that's a dimension, assignability. We can tag tasks with a certain set of labels, so that's a dimension. We have priority, that's a dimension. We have progress, that's a dimension. So these buckets, maybe I want to go by service. So let's call this teams. And then we'll do another one called SharePoint. And then just for today's example, I'm going to make one called miscellaneous, which is a terrible category, but we're gonna use that. Another thing that I highly encourage people to use, or a workflow, again, how will we work with these tasks? You might come across some messages that require no action on your part. So you can opt to delete them, or you can have a bucket called no action required. All right, so I've got my bucket. So again, the first one that we have all the way over to the left here, again, I tend to work my processes that way, but that's kind of our all important bucket. That bucket is going to be the connection between the message center and our plan. So I don't get to tell message center to sort all these things into these various buckets. Those are going to be through manual actions. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to create the first task, because I also might want to add some tags. So I'm going to click on this first task, and I'm going to open it up. Now, here is what a task looks like in our plan. And one, you'll see you can assign a task, and everyone who's a member of your team is going to be assignable, and you can assign multiple people to a task. You have a bucket, so that is a dimension of your task. You have a progress dimension, so that's something that can be defined. You have priority. You can set start and due dates on these, so keep that in mind. Once you actually get a message from the message center, you can set some due dates, start dates, things like that. You can add notes, you can make checklists, and you can even leave comments on these tasks. So these are great little records that you can work from. And then you have these labels off to the side. And this one, this dimension, this is what I usually use, is I talk about the type of action that we might be taking here. So training might be one of the kind of dimensions. So it's a message about teams that's going to require some training action. That's a good one. Here's one. This might require a KB update, like a knowledge base update. Right? And maybe this just requires a communication. All right, so we're going to add some of these labels in. So think of some other ways that you might want to add dimension to these tasks. And I recommend going in and setting them up, kind of creating your first task, because these will be used, these will stick around and can be used on all subsequent tasks. So we have some common ones that we're going to use. We might add to those in just a moment, but here's my first task. And again, this task can be, you can get rid of it later on, but here I've kind of got my plan ready. So think about, and maybe this meeting, think about how do I want to work on this with other people. That'll dictate how you set it up. And heck, you might even want to read the message center as a team first, look at a few messages and think, here's how we should set this up. All right, so once we have our plan ready, here comes the easy part, connecting the message center to your plan. All right, so we're going to jump in and we're going to come back to this slide. But here are some things that I just want everyone to know as you're doing this. So I have my plan set up. I'm going to go back to my admin center tab here, and I'm going to open the message center. And you'll see here, look at this, planner syncing. It couldn't be easier. So I'm going to click on planner syncing, and it's going to ask, do I want to set this up? It's going to give me a couple caveats here, but I'm going to turn this on. And the first thing I need to do is add my plan. So it should give me some suggested plans that I have access to. So I have my message center tasks plan that's connected to my team. And then remember, I have to select a bucket. Now you can create a new one on the fly, but I kind of like to work backwards from this process is make sure my plan's correct. And then all I have to do is kind of turn on the faucet and start putting in messages. So it will tell you now that you have selected a plan, you can pick the bucket that you want your messages to go into. So I said I wanted them to kind of funnel into new messages, and then I'm going to click next. Again, no one's going to lose any brain cells here because this is so easy. Now, here is the first thing that I'm going to talk about. What is relevant to us? So hopefully you have a kind of lots of people from within the organization in your steering committee. So you may have the kind of more higher end technology side represented all the way down to sort of the end user experience population represented. So there could be a lot that's relevant to you. So let's go through and pick what do we want. So I usually say get all updates. If only major updates are coming through, this is probably a sort of technology only update. Again, with all updates, you can still filter a little bit, but I usually say that's a good one to pick. And then you're going to include messages in a particular set of categories. So luckily, this kind of breaks down, and we're going to talk about this a little bit, but here are the categories. Here are the types of messages that come into the message center. Things that we need to do to prevent or fix issues, planning for change, or staying informed. So oftentimes, and again, feel free to kind of read along on those definitions, but these are things that I usually leave all three checked. Again, assuming we have a pretty broad group represented. But then here's where we want to be careful. We want to include messages about these particular products or services. So this is going to be everything that you're licensed for in your environment, all the things that you're receiving messages on. However, some of these services you might not use in your environment. So my group, we don't use Dynamics, and we don't use bookings. We don't use Kaizala, and let's see. I'll maybe turn off my Sway updates. So, okay, so this is good. This is what I want to get messages on. So again, get all updates across all categories. The main thing, I think, the time where you want to be choosy is what services you're using. And then click next. And then here is, this is important. So when I show you this option, you can get messages that are from the past 7 days, the past 14 days, 21 days, 28 days. Okay, the choice is clear. More is better, right? Okay, wrong. This is the other point that I want to make on my slide. Do not create a day one backlog. Be thinking about, okay, you're going to maybe get together with this group of people and you're picking a place to start. Don't make it so you can't get through these messages and you can't process them in the time that you get together. So if I import messages, everything from the past month, and trust me, there are a lot of messages in Message Center. Microsoft is making changes a lot. So they're constantly sending us email. So be choosy, okay? Going beyond 7 days, that again, make sure you really mean it. 2 weeks is probably the most I would recommend. And then another thing, a frequently asked question I get, especially when we're looking at this sort of choices, people often ask me, can I set up one plan for the less technical stuff and another plan for the more technical stuff? Unfortunately, today, the answer is no. You can only connect to one plan. So this has to be kind of a everyone uses it type of environment. So just keep that in mind. All right, so here I'm going to import the past 2 weeks. That's all I'm going to do. And actually, when we look at this together, let's just see how much that is. So I'm going to click next and I'm going to finish it. Done. All right. And then here is our automatic syncing. So this is what I recommend, setting up a sync, a daily sync to run. So it's going to start today. I'm going to run it every day and I'll run it, in the evening. And I'm just going to repeat it every day. You could do it, once a week, whatever you want to do. This could be, how often you're going to meet with your group, which we're going to talk about. But all you have to do is then set up automatic syncing. I'm going to create that flow. It's going to make sure I have access to that. And all right, looks good. Going to create that flow. So this is kind of a good example of like Microsoft kind of doing the work for you, but some of the automation you can do with flow. And we're done. So we've set up our sync. And I'm going to go in and boom, look at that. We got all these messages coming in. They're coming in and they're coming in and they're coming in, and I'm scrolling and I'm flowing. All right, there we go. So not too many messages, it looks like, in the past 2 weeks, but just be aware this is something that if you import the last month, it may take a while for you to get through and process these together as a team. So here I've got all my new messages flowing into my plan. So let's see. Let's look at this one from Yammer, the Yammer desktop app update. Okay, let's just kind of take a look at what these look like. So here I get my information. It does put a start date in of the day that it was imported, but as you can see when it was published. This might be based on the last update date. I'm picking kind of a recent one, but this is something that you can use. Now, in this case, I might not want to show this on the card once I'm done working with the task, but it's kind of up to me. So I can read through. So as a team, we can kind of read through and summarize these things. And we can see that, hey, what do we need to, how is this going to affect our organization? I usually say skip to the end. We're going to retire the current experience midway through the year. And, if your current organization is currently using Yammer Desktop, let's say, yeah, we are. We need to stay informed about the upcoming changes. Okay. We'll still allow time for users to transition. Great. But remember, just because Microsoft says, we're going to give you time to feel comfortable. I don't know why I'm getting this you no longer have access error here, so please bear with me. But here, just because Microsoft says you have time to transition doesn't mean you should wait until the very end. This might be something like, hey, as soon as this new desktop experience is available, we can tackle this right then and there. We can figure out what we need to do to make this change. So we'll kind of give some information. Now, it looks like maybe there isn't something that we can do to take action on this right now. So we might want to either extend our start date out to review this at our next meeting, or we may want to send a communication out, an early communication. We want to be really proactive. So we're going to flag this as a communication. So I'm clicking that checkbox next to there. And I don't know why this didn't go through. Again, sometimes things like to be, all right, so I'm not sure why this is not liking this, but here, I'm just going to put this in miscellaneous, of course. Here, let me try refreshing my page here. Again, like I said, I thought I made all of the necessary sacrifices to the demo gods today, but maybe I didn't. All right, so we're going to try this one more time. I'm going to make this full screen. We'll try my Yammer desktop. Is this going to let me? Yay. Okay, so I guess when in doubt, refresh. And I'm going to put this in our miscellaneous tasks. Again, some of these things, maybe it's kind of like a slow moving, change that's going to get there eventually. And we've got time, and we can kind of put this up and say, hey, let's review this at a later time. We could make another bucket, whatever we need to do. But here we can say there's a communication that might need to go out on this. So we can go in to the task and assign someone. So let's assign Bianca. She's the person that would go in and take this information, and maybe also we may need to make a knowledge base update. All right, so Bianca, and then we'll add a Nestor onto this, and we're good to go. And now we have some accountability. We're ready to say, hey, you two, we need a communication, we need a knowledge base update. And then they can come in and mark it done when they're ready. And I have 2 separate tasks on here. So just remember, you can come in and you can make a checklist item. So I'm going to say send communication. I'm going to right click on it. And I'm also going to add an item that is update KB. So if I have a checklist item, you know, one person can complete one and the other can complete the other one. And if I want to, I can choose to show my checklist on the card rather than the text of the update. So kind of a cool thing that you can do. One other thing that I just want to let you know, so this is a really good one. I'm going to double up here. So if any of you are guests in other tenants, in teams, I'm a guest in several tenants, and when I need to switch organizations, there's a little drop down next to my user profile that I click on to switch between organizations. Guess what? They're going to move that menu. So this is one where this could cause some impact to our end users, and they might start picking up the phone and going, I miss, you know, I can't get into my other organization, or I can't get into our client Teams environment. And they're calling the help desk, right? And if we didn't tell the help desk, they also might be like, I don't know what's happening. It's kind of that you don't know what you don't know situation. So if I sign in one day and maybe like Megan's profile, all of a sudden, I don't see that organization drop down, my first inclination is probably it's broken. Something's not working the way it should. I'm going to call support. So as long as we are planning for these changes and we know that the actions to take, we can kind of plan for them. However, occasionally you might run across a task that you want to copy to another plan that you're a part of. Just remember, in Planner, you can copy a task, and I can give it a different name if I need to, but I can move it to a different plan that I have access to. So let's just move it to this onboarding plan, and I'll use this new staff bucket, and I'm going to remove the checklist but keep all the other things and click copy. And now I've sent that task somewhere else. So this is a potential solution for those of you that are like, well, we can't do this because we can't have 2 plans. Now, it's not impossible. It just takes a little bit more work. You have to actually know which ones you want to send elsewhere. So you can move it, you can copy it. They're movable once they get into the plan. All right. So we've added our messages. So just remember, don't create a day 1 backlog. Make sure that you kind of create that first task to kind of set up your labels and your tags and things like that, and build this out. And remember, we can assign these tasks to people. We can make sure what we need to get done. We may need to define what we need to get done, but it gets done. So let's come back to our committee. So as I mentioned, you know, you are not going to get by with one Exchange administrator in Microsoft 365. If you haven't learned that now, it's a lesson you'll learn later on. So one of the things that I always tell people, and again, I love Pat's example of looking at the productivity score, seeing who's doing what in Microsoft 365 and trying to leverage that, capitalize on their excitement. I usually tell people, make a formal group of people with a purpose. And by formal, I mean it needs to be real in your organization. Participating in this work, it needs to be a recognized piece of someone's job. We all wear a lot of hats, okay? And let me tell you, I work a lot with champions groups, all right? So I come into organizations and we're doing a big project and I ask, hey, do you have a group of champions? And they say, yes, we do. Let me tell you about these champions. They get put upon a lot. constantly get asked to help with things. So make sure that there's buy-in across the organization. One group that I work with, I absolutely adore them. They created a nomination process. So their leadership said, hey, everyone, we're going to nominate some people to become champions for this program. Leader on the leadership level, recognizing we need help. In order to be successful with this new platform, we need help from other people. So make it real, make it formal. Don't have it be a, kind of, the side of the side of the side gig. This is not the time. We want this to be formal because and I know this is a long-term proposition. Things are going to be changing all the time. For those of you who have been in the Microsoft 365 environment, when it was Office 365, remember when Teams didn't even exist? Okay, like Teams is not going to be the last Teams of its kind. So form this group now, strengthen numbers, make sure you have representation, and formalize this journey. And remember, the goal of having a group like this put together, it's to be proactive. So meet regularly, meet on a schedule. You could meet bi-weekly to start, because remember, you kind of have to form and feel out what you're going to be doing. But maybe it could be a monthly meeting where you have an agenda where it's like, okay, we want to take the pulse of what's going on in the organization. Are there any changes coming up that we need to take action on immediately or in the near future? Figure out what other adoption workloads you can add here. So maybe during these meetings, when you're getting together with people, you can see, are we making a difference? You can look at the productivity scoring and say, hey, we're seeing that we've been proactive. We've been telling people about these tools as they come out. We've been training, we've been putting out announcements, and we're seeing an uptick in activity. And if any of you are just, on a lark sometime, I always tell people, go look at your team's usage report right at the beginning of the pandemic, in that March, April timeline. It's like a hockey stick. So just remember, people are using these tools, and in many ways, these are our only ways to connect with one another. So it's that much more critical to have a group of people put together. Now, I have tons of thoughts and experience to share on this. So again, would love to go through any questions that you have about what I've seen, what I've done, what I've helped groups do, but make sure you have a group of people. Remember, you aren't going to win this battle against Microsoft 365 with your SharePoint person and your Exchange person. You need a lot more people outside of IT to help you. So again, like our pitfalls, steering committee, if you put this group together, if you do not follow through, if it's not formal, if it's not real, and it's not recognized, we're just, again, we've just made the message center in a plan that no one looks at and still no one's doing anything with. And then the last thing, and let me tell you, I put this in here because a lot of us are IT professionals. And I think we've all shared our, war stories and things like that about involving or not involving people outside of the IT organization because, end users, right? Yikes, they can be real pain. But guess what? That's who we serve. That's why we're here, is to support our end user environment. So again, jokes aside about how there are just some times, but you need to include them. So make sure it's folks that, get some squeaky wheels in there. If you are proactive with that group of people, the wheel might not squeak that loud anymore, because they feel like they have some control and ownership in that environment. Again, I don't want anyone, feeling queasy on Friday afternoon, but let me just tell you, if you can involve some folks outside of IT, it's that much better. Okay, so now what I want to do is talk about our sort of taking action on tasks. So remember, there's 3 categories of messages that are coming over from the message center. Things that we need to do to prevent or fix issues, things that we need to do to plan for change. So plan for change, again, that could end up being short and long term, okay? And then the stay informed messages. So when you're reviewing these tasks, and we're going to go in and look at a few and try out a few more things, but just remember, you want to think of what your process is for some of these things. Now, for preventing or fixing issues, some of these things are going to require, again, depending on your environment that you're in, is so here we've got our second level on web and desktop. Hey, if your change management, technical change management extends out of this plan, you may need to add a change into your IT service management tool. That might be something that we need to add in here. Like this needs a change entered, whatever it might be. So just be aware. I'm sorry, I'm probably on the wrong one. Fix issues. Hold on. Sorry, I jumped ahead. So let me close that one out. Let me find one. Let me see if I can find one that is like a fix issues. Maybe we don't have one of those in here. We might have to go back directly to the message center. Okay, stay in. Looks like nothing's really going to break in our environment. Good job, Megan. We might have to go back into our environment. Okay, finally found one. Okay, so we got some certificate changes. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. So we may need to make a change in our technical environment. We may need to test some of the changes or things that we need to do. And as you can see, these notes, they get a little bit long. So we may want to assign this to someone and say, can you write up a change plan for this? Whatever that process might be. But just remember, when we get into the sort of prevent or fix issues, one, you may want to make this a high priority task, okay? And we know that oftentimes these things have a time where you're going to need to take action. And again, I might be scanning or skimming too fast through these things, but let's just say, okay, again, skimming and scanning a little too issue, but let's add a due date on here. So we're going to say by the end of November, this needs to be addressed. So we're going to add in a start date and an end date. And we're going to assign, we'll assign Megan to this task. So Megan has to go in and say she's done something with this task. All right. And we're going to do, we'll call this a fix. And give it a check marks. All right. So this is Megan's fix. And again, could be in a different bucket that we've created. And Megan has to go in and say that she's done these things. Okay, so whether we create a checklist or something like that, we can go in and make a fix for this. Megan can come in, she can say that this is an in progress task. Again, if you're meeting with your group every couple weeks, we want to know if people are working on these things. And let me tell you, record management, like going in, updating your tasks, that makes these meetings that much more helpful. So making sure that we abide by the tasks. All right, so I'm just kind of going to create a couple of things here. So this is a Teams one. Let me go to my Teams. Here's a restrict sign in. Okay, meeting recordings. That's a big one. That's going to be a change that's coming. And then again, lots of Teams stuff. So our Teams bucket might get long, but I'm going to come in and I'm going to label a couple more of these things just so that we can see what we might need to do. And I'm going to assign a couple more of these. And this is just showing you can take some quick actions on these tasks. So I'm going to assign Adele and Megan. Okay. And we're going to come in and add just some other little things on these tasks. All right. And I'll make it a high priority task. So I just want to add a little bit of variety here so that you can see when we go in and assign these tasks and take action and mark some of them in progress, we can actually come in and look, if we look at our charts area, we can start to look at some analytics about these tasks. So this is one really big benefit of using Planner, is starting to break down and understand the tasks that are kind of coming from the message center that we're trying to take action on. So again, you're seeing here, we still have all these, we have 46 tasks, but we can see, how many have not been started, how many we have in progress, how many are overdue, how many we've completed and taken action on. And we can go through and see, who has the most tasks assigned to them, et cetera. So we can go in and look at the charts view. There's our board view, which we're looking at here. There is a list view for tasks. Some people really like that, especially when we're thinking about it from the message center, right? So, okay, we like the message center. Maybe that's how we want to process those messages. Again, I like kind of going through I like the Kanban style board here, but it's really every group that they want to use. And now that we've added a little bit of dimension on here, see how here we have these grouped by bucket. Now we can group them by labels, okay? So we could change our task grouping and see how many of these are training related, how many are KB updates that we need to get done, how many are communications, and then again, any other labels that we use. So we can group these and kind of flip and switch the way that we look at our board. So I really like that about Planner, and this can make a difference for how you're going to work with these tasks. So a couple other things. So again, putting in fixes, again, planning for change. Again, some of these, as we kind of saw, there are, some good impact statements. Some of these are wordy, some of them are a little bit shorter, but understanding, hey, what do you need to do to prepare? Again, this is a good place for building that to-do list or this checklist, and you can go in and kind of build these out. And you can understand if there is an impact date or a due date that this should be in by. You can put that in there so that people know. And this is, again, it's a great tool as long as you have the follow through on it. You know who's accountable, you know who's responsible. That can make a huge, huge difference. So make sure that you've got your group, you've got your team, you've got your plan. The message center is putting messages in, but you are the key. The people are the key in taking action and moving this forward. So let's do a quick recap. Looks like I managed to come way under, but if we need to knock off a little early, that's okay. But just to recap a few things, and again, we'll do Q&A. Remember, the message center needs your attention. It needs more eyes on it. So that's kind of the main problem. And in order to solve this problem, you need to formalize your effort to manage change. So I recommend having a committee. So building that group of people out. The goal is action, not just to put message center messages into a planner. The goal is taking action. So form your team, then your capital T team in Teams. Try that template out. Again, I'm going to play with that a little bit more. And then build a plan. Build your task out, build your labels, and then connect the message center. So you can go in and reconnect that and then start a regular review time. So make sure you're meeting regularly. Hey, don't feel like you've got to meet bi-weekly. Maybe all you can do is meet on a quarterly basis. It's up to you. But you want to meet regularly so that you aren't caught off guard by change in Microsoft 365, that you're keeping people informed about things that they're looking for. So let me tell you, I have heard people have asked me forever, does Teams have breakout rooms? Does Teams have breakout rooms? Does Teams have breakout rooms? I mean, oh my gosh, the breakout rooms, they want breakout rooms. Well, guess what? Breakout rooms are coming, right? But if I am in the, I'm not really paying attention, I don't really know that this is coming soon, I might miss it. Or some of these things, in order to enact them, they require an administrator to turn them on. So we might actually, what if we had breakout rooms for a month and we didn't even know it. So just be aware some of those things. We can be proactive, keep people happy, keep our adoption high, close out those third-party tools. Hey, we don't need Zoom anymore because now we have breakout rooms and Teams. And this is where kind of the beauty of this comes in. So what I'm going to do is just take a quick question break. I know maybe people are having some questions. All right, so yeah, people are missing. Yep, we have it on, and there they sit. Okay, so that is it. Okay, this is the thing that drives me so nuts is, you know, people they turn them on or they look at the message center and they're just, hey, now I see the messages, but what am I going to do with them? Okay. Oh, it looks like we had a good time for people to go through and go in and review their tasks in Planner. Hey, more power to you. All right, so John has a question. Is connecting to one plan tenant-wide or per users with access to the message center? Okay, it's tenant-wide. So I think I understand your question. So if you have a message center, you can connect the message center to one single plan. So one thing that I just want to pull up on the screen here is, okay, so I've connected the message center and it's going to show you up here. Once it's synced, it'll tell you when it's been syncing. Now, if I click on planner syncing, you'll see I only have one plan that I can synchronize my message center messages to. And if I need to change that, okay, I want to edit the plan and the bucket names in Planner. I want to change what I'm doing, which messages are syncing, or I want to stop syncing to this plan and I want to start syncing to a new plan. Just remember, one plan. That's all you can connect the message center to. So hopefully that answers your question. All right, so I'm going to actually hang out, answer any other questions that you might have. Again, sorry you all don't get the full 90-minute Holly Show experience, but you know, I went through it pretty fast and it's 3:30 on a Friday. So if you have any questions, and again, feel free to shout them out too. Don't feel like you have to do everything in the meeting chat too. Okay. Great question, John. So is the person that set up syncing the only person that can change it, or can anybody change the plan as long as they have access to it? So that's actually a really good question, and one that I don't get as often. So basically, the person who has access to the message center can go in and change the planner syncing. So again, in my environment, so for example, Megan Bowen, she's our global admin. Megan has to set it up. She's the only person with the message center access, and she is the only person that can set up the synchronization from this window. But let's look at our plan, okay? So here, actually somehow managed to have 2 accounts signed in. So now I am Adele. So I'm Adele Vance in this window. So let's go into Teams. Again, sometimes my computer doesn't like how many profiles I sign into things with. We'll see if it'll accept what I'm trying to do here. Okay, so I'm not going to turn on my desktop notifications here, but now I'm Adele. So I'm a member of our steering committee team as Adele. And just so everyone knows, here I have my Microsoft 365 steering committee. I don't know if everyone knows this, but just remember, you can drag and sort. So I'm going to put my Microsoft 365 steering committee team at the top of my list. You can also pin and keep them. I don't know why it won't let me pin this team. Who knows? Okay, so here I've got, oh, it's pinning a channel. Sorry, you can pin a channel. So had a little moment there. So if this is a really important channel to me, I can keep it pinned to the top of my kind of Teams browser, but you can reorder these. So here I'm in the change management channel. Remember, I'm not Megan anymore, I'm Adele. And I'm going to go into my message center tasks plan. Of course, I've gotten a an error. So let's try that one more time. And I can come in and look at these things. Now, if I come in and retitle and rename some of these buckets, now I have access to this plan. I can edit the plan. I can do whatever I need to do with the plan. Members and owners kind of can do the same things, but just be aware you probably don't want to mess with that with your main new messages bucket, but all of your other buckets and things like that, Adele can come in here and make changes. So whoever's on the team can kind of make changes to the team now, or to the plan, sorry. So hopefully that answers your question. One thing I did want to look at, however, something I kind of forgot to show off here is there is a schedule. So if you want to look at your schedule of your message center tasks against a calendar, you can. Now I'm Megan again, and I'm the owner, and I created this plan. Let's actually open this plan. So I just clicked on the globe. Let's open this plan in Planner. So we've opened the plan in Planner. And the reason that I'm going to do that is because this little menu right here. So if I click this 3 dots next to this plan, I can actually add this plan to the Outlook calendar. I can also go into the plan settings and I can turn on some notifications for this plan. This is something that only the owner can do. So just be aware, only the owner can go into a plan and monkey with these settings. But there are a couple more things you can do from the full planner screen that you can't do from within the Teams view. So again, maybe more than you bargained for, John, on that answer, but wanted to give you all the information that I possibly could. Right. So, okay, good question, John. So if you have 2 global admins, they can both change the syncing. Yes. So yeah, the message center is kind of like we have 1 message center between all of us. So Megan's message center isn't going to be different than, say, someone else's message center. Of course, in my demo tenant, I only have the 1 global admin, but the message center can only sync to 1 plan, but multiple people, if they have access to the message center, they could go in and modify those settings. All right. So again, like I said, didn't go the full time, but that's okay. If you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to help you out. And I know that Ted has maybe some information to go through on the gift card drawing, the grand prize drawing, and any